Good evening, everyone. This is Nimish. We are joining live with our expert Anoma ji, who has about 10 years experience working as a psychologist and as a teacher. She has been working as an academic tutor and educator, and after completing her post graduation in psychology from University of Calcutta, she has been practicing as a psychologist since almost 5 years. So we would like to hand over to Anomaji, who is going to talk about mental health and hygiene today, and her experience of RCI registered educator, as well as health mental health educator. She will give us an exposure about what are her views on this topic. Feel free to interact and ask your questions, and she'll be able to take up those live. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anomaji.
Thank you, Nimeshji. Good evening to one and all. So, today's topic is mental health and hygiene. It's a very important topic standing in today's scenario because our mental health is at stake. Our mental hygiene is something which is we need to look upon at this time, especially post pandemic. So, moving on with my PPT, what do we understand by mental health? So according to American Psychological Association, mental health is a state of mind which is characterized mostly by first the emotional well-being, second the behavioral adjustment that we constantly do in our environment, third the freedom from anxiety and disabling the symptoms which we often get wrapped up with. And then comes the capacities to establish a very constructive and healthy relationship with our near and dear ones in the society. And the last is to cope with the stresses, any kind of stress that we confront in our life. So these are the points which American Psychological Association has focused upon, including in the definition of mental health. So mental health is all about our mind, and it is definitely equally important as physical health. So we have basic three components through which we can see mental health. First is what we think, second is what we feel, and the third is how we act. So talking about thinking, it is the cognitive component of our mental health, which basically comprises of how we recognize our thoughts, how we respond to our thoughts, and how these thoughts are actually producing some feeling. So many times it happens that my thought of worthlessness is producing a feeling of very sadness or anger within me, which is actually leading to suicidal attempts, or which is leading to taking up some impulsive and drastic steps in our life because of this worthless feeling. So therefore our thought is very much important part which we need to recognize time to time to identify if there is some negative thought which is hampering our daily functioning. Then going on to the emotional component, that is the feeling part. So here again we need to understand what is the origin of the feeling. The feeling is coming up from where, and then we also need to check how we are responding to feeling. Often it happens like that कि हमें दुख हो रही है, किसी बात की दुख हो रही है. For example, I haven't scored good in my marks or in my any exam, so I'm feeling very bad about it, I'm feeling very sad. But when I get back to home, I am showing anger and frustration on my younger sibling. So here I need to understand that my this sad feeling is actually giving rise to my another feeling which I am responding in such and such behavior, which is actually hampering my interpersonal relationships. That is very important to understand. Then feelings also produce our thoughts. It's not only that thoughts leads to feeling, rather feelings also leads to thoughts. So it's a bidirectional process which keeps on going within our mind. Then coming on to the important part of action, that is the behavioral component of mental health. So both this thought and feelings are manifested through our actions, just like I stated an example in the emotional part. So before we are acting, we need to check that are we acting in the appropriate way, in the appropriate situation, at appropriate time. Sometimes our action can be healthy, sometimes it would not be healthy, it would be very unhealthy. Unhealthy for us, unhealthy for the others. So there we need to check that how can we prevent, how can we just modify this unhealthy action into a healthy action, so that we just don't dissipate our negative part into the environment. So here are the four basic lifestyles, healthy lifestyles that we follow. This had been coming on from the Ayurveda and the uh, Vedic era. So the first is ahar, that is the right food. The food that we choose, it needs to be balanced, it needs to be healthy. Majority of times nowadays we depend upon junk food, we depend upon all these Zomato, Swiggy and whatnot. But we never think that are we intaking the appropriate amount of food? Are we intaking the right quality of food? Are these foods providing the nutrients which is required by my body, by my mind to grow into a healthy being? So choosing food is very important aspect of life. Then coming on to vihar, that is the right recreation. So here recreation means engaging in exercise, gymming, yoga, morning walks, evening walks. All these forms of exercises need to be taken up by us, especially when we have this hectic lifestyle of working day and night. So there our body and our mind needs this form of recreation, so that it gets the time to rejuvenate the energy which we are losing through our work stress. Then coming on to the third point, that is achar, that is the right routine. So there are three kinds of activities. First is ritucharya, which is basically seasonal. Then comes dinacharya, which is on daily basis, and then ratricharya, which is night basis. So depending upon our routine, therefore we often say ki schedule yourself up, make a routine and try to follow it. You might have been seen it in the pandemic when our routine was just gone chaotic, how overwhelming we were feeling. बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत हो रही थी, हमें ऐसा लग रहा था कि कुछ अच्छा नहीं है। हाँ, सब चीज इधर उधर हो रहा है, हौच पौच हो रहा है। Why? Because we were deviated from our daily routine, we were deviated from our schedules. Therefore we were feeling so disturbed, both bodily as well as from mind. So there we need to set a routine, be it a holiday, be it a working day, be it a leisure time, be it a working time. A routine is a form of discipline which helps us to keep us on the track and not to deviate. It helps us to focus on each and every steps of our goal and reach goal smoothly. Then coming on to the last, that is vichar, the rightful thinking. Yes, sound and positive mental health does come from what kind of thoughts we are building upon inside us. So, what thoughts are coming? Are negative thoughts coming? So, if negative thoughts are coming, why they are coming? What is the source of this negative thoughts? How are we dealing with this negative thoughts? It is not at all possible that every time we will have a positive thought. Definitely, we will have a negative thought, but how are we dealing with it? How is our resilience working with it? How are coping mechanisms working with that thought, that negative thought, and turning it it into a positive one is the important part. So having both the thoughts is very normal. It is not at all possible to have positive thoughts every time, but definitely how are we treating the negative thoughts, how are we dealing with it, that's an important part that we need to learn from our mental hygiene styles. So these are the four important aspects of our life which helps us to remain healthy from mind as well as from body. Now moving on to the hygiene part. How can we just maintain our hygiene? How can we keep on going with our hygiene? Specifically mental hygiene, because body hygiene we are all very much aware at today's date. But mental hygiene is still lacking behind. It is still somewhere being compromised, it is still somewhere being suppressed by other forms of important priorities that we have in our life. So starting with connecting with self. Yes, self is very important. अगर मैं ही नहीं हूं तो what's the point in doing all the things that is going around that I want to do? So I am important. I am existing, therefore my near and dear ones are also existing. So I need to give that self priority to myself. So connecting with self, this picture actually gives a very beautiful form of how we can connect with ourselves. Because mirror is something which actually shows our original self to us. It never fakes to us. So whatever we are, if we stand in front of a mirror, it actually reflects what we are. Therefore knowing self is very important, because when I know myself I will work accordingly with my flaws, with my strengths, both the things. Then next comes connecting with others. Yes, after this self comes the others, because yeah, the relationships, the interrelationships that we build with others in society is also important. They are our support system, our friends, our families, our loved ones, our near and dear ones, our relatives, all are our support system. So when I am having a healthy self, I can see the healthy support system around me. And equally, if I have a healthy support system around me, I will be able to perceive my healthy being, my healthy existence into this world. So connecting with others is also important to keep a reality check on ourselves, that where are we going wrong, or just to rely sometimes upon them so that we can get that rejuvenation. Next, coming on, learning to let go of. This is a very hard skill which we think that it is unattainable, but trust me, it is not that hard that we won't be able to achieve it. Yes, we need to learn how to let go of. If we just keep on carrying the baggage, our shoulder gets heavy, our mind gets heavy. जस्ट लाइक हम हर दिन का कचरा हर दिन फेंक देते हैं, हम कचरा घर में जमा के नहीं रखते हैं. In equal way, why do we keep the wastes in our mind? We do need to declutter our mind so that our mind gets fresh emptiness and new things can get into it. We can think afresh every day. If we keep on cluttering our mind with the old stuffs, we won't, our bowl of the mind, which is a form of a bowl, if it is already full to brim, then it won't be able to catch the new things from the outside. And there then we will start feeling a stagnation, a stuckness, and that will often lead to feeling of earthlessness, feeling of not living, feeling of suicide, and whatnot. So learning to let go of is a very important skill which we need to practice. Next, with this we come to live in present moment fully. Once we know कि कैसे घर को साफ करना है, कैसे अपने मन को साफ करना है हर दिन, we will start living in our present. बट जब तक हम अपने पास्ट को पकड़ के रखेंगे, अपने गार्बेजेस को पकड़ के रखेंगे, वी वोंट बी एबल टू फोकस इन आवर प्रेजेंट. So therefore letting go of is important, and when we let it go of, we will be able to see our present. Our present is beautiful, our present might not be beautiful, but living in it is important, because we can only modify our present. We can neither change our past nor we can do anything of our future. But what we can do is change our present by living it at present. Next, coming on to dump the junk out of your conscious thoughts. Yes, that's what I said. That all the thoughts which are disturbing you, you have to let them out. There are various ways you can come up to counseling sessions when you feel that okay, you are not able to do it by self. You can take help of your friends, you can talk out to them. There are innumerous ways through which you can go for that. You can take up art forms, but definitely taking out those disturbing thoughts is very much important, so that we can live in present, we can think ahead and not just get stuck. Next, coming on to accept yourself and your circumstances. So this point is very much related to connecting with self. When I'm connecting with self, I'm able to see my strengths as well as my weakness. So मेरी खामियां और मेरे जो गुण हैं, ये दोनों ही अगर मैं अपने इस प्रेजेंट में अपनाऊं, तो आई वुड बी द पर्सन who would be able to survive, who would be able to exist, because I'm conscious about myself, because I'm aware and alert about myself. So, acceptance is a very, very big tool that we have to prepare on, that we have to use in our life to survive, to make our life healthy, to make our living healthy. Then getting on to being assertive. So often we do, either we are aggressive by passiveness or by actively. So when we are aggressive actively, we are throwing things, we are shouting and whatnot. But when we are passively aggressive, actually what we are doing, we are shutting the door or we are not talking. सो बेसिकली उस अग्रेशन को हम अपने ही अंदर बना दे रहे हैं और उसको अपने बॉडी के अंदर ग्रो करवा रहे हैं. देयर कम्स द इशू. आप एक नेगेटिव चीज को, एक अनवांटेड चीज को अगर अपने ही अंदर खाली बढ़ाते रहोगे, दैट विल हैम्पर यू. So we need to understand when this aggression is turning into negativity and it is eating me up from inside, that is not a healthy way of dealing with aggression. Similarly, jab mera yahi same aggression, I am just blasting it out, then it is affecting others, it is eating up others. Equally, it is not healthy way of dealing with it. So being assertive is another skill which we need to learn in our life. So being assertive means I am neither rude, I am not too polite, I am neither being very passive, I am nor being very actively showing my aggression. I'm just stating forward what I feel. So here, assertiveness needs to be built upon in our day-to-day life, so that we can use it in our work life, we can use it in our interpersonal relationship, we can use it in our intrapersonal relationship also. Next, coming on to being empathetic. A very important skill again, being empathetic. Without this, the world seems just dark. So, being empathetic not only to others but to self. There's a difference between being sympathetic and being empathetic. So, being empathetic, as this picture rightly shows, that you are able to perceive the world through the eyes of others. And that doesn't mean कि आप हमेशा दूसरों के आंखों से धरती को देखते रहोगे. You have to switch between these two. Sometimes you have to see from the eyes of the other so that you can understand that person's stance, so that you can understand that person's perception. And then you have to come back to your perception also, so that you don't get lost in that perception. And there comes the reality check. कौन कितना डेविएट कर रहा है रियलिटी से, यू वुड बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हेन यू आर एबल टू see from your perspective as well as from the other person's perspective. This is what is being empathetic all about. And in our life, we need empathetic friends, empathetic people around who can just understand my point of view and not giving sympathy. हमें बेचारा बनाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. We don't want to be that helpless person. No, we don't want that. What we want is that, yeah, other person is also able to understand my viewpoint. For that, I need to start understanding others' viewpoint too, because it's a two-way process. Moving on to properly channelizing the negative thoughts and emotions which are being built up inside us. Yeah, because we are having lots of struggles in our life which we cannot avoid. Some unavoidable circumstances does happen in our life which has impact on us, some negative impact on us. So we can't avoid it. We can't always keep on saying that yes, we always have to be positive, or we always have to face something positive. No, negative things can come up, negative emotions, negative thoughts, they can come up. But channelizing it properly is important. Just like I said in the second slide, that how we are dealing with our negative thoughts is important. How we are coping with our negative thoughts is important. So, channelizing is again an important tool to maintain our mental hygiene. Then, coming on to focusing on self care. Yes, when we are connecting with self, we are understanding the needs of ourselves. Then we do need to take care of it. We have to take care of ourselves, pampering ourselves, because it is required. We have to treat ourselves sometimes as child, sometimes as adult, sometimes as an old person, but we do have to treat ourselves with the best from our own side. So, taking care of our body, taking care of our mind, taking care of our well being is our utmost duty towards us. Expressing the gratitude, yeah, we often forget that how can we express our gratitude. We often forget to express our gratitude to the simple things that is happening. A, just a token of love can change the world. A small token of love. And that does not mean that you have to give some very expensive present or something like that. A smile, a thanks, but definitely a genuine one, does change the person to whom you are giving this, as well as your own self. You feel immense satisfaction when you are able to give this token of love, when you are able to express your gratitude towards that person. But often we forget that we are being have benefited with hell lot of things, but we don't say thanks to those. And therefore sometimes we do get frustrated of it, कि क्या खाना मिल रहा है मुझे पसंद नहीं है. But whatever we are getting, जो खाना मिल रहा है, have we ever praised it? We need to understand that praise is something which is again not one way. If I don't give the praise, I won't also receive it. So I have to be gratitude. Then coming on to setting appropriate boundaries. Yeah, very important. for our mental hygiene, for our mental well being, that we need to know what are limits. So, when we will connect with ourselves, we would be able to know what are our limits. हम कितने दूर तक जा सकते हैं. Just like we have a physical proximity understanding with each and every relation, कि हम कौन से रिलेशन में कितना फिजिकल प्रॉक्सिमिटी मेंटेन कर सकते हैं. Equally mental boundary, who will maintain it? It is we who have to maintain the mental boundary too, because once we cross the line, there are all around the devils, the so-called Ravans, who are there to just take away the Sita, kidnap the Sita. So it's our duty to know our boundaries so that we don't fall prey to them. We need to know our limitations, and accordingly we need to cope. Accordingly we need to set our boundaries. So now coming on to some techniques that we can use on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, to keep a check on our mental well-being. Starting with emotions, which is very important, because emotion is something that often is like water. We are trying to hold it, but it is just peeping and leaking out. So, emotion is important to understand, emotion is important to recognize and identify. So, this is a sheet of spotting emotions. As you can see, here we have the 7 full days, and accordingly, the emotions are described here with their names as well as emojis. So, predominantly, what emotion you're facing in a day, you can just give a tick to it. And in a whole week, you would be now able to see कि पूरे हफ्ते में आपका कौन सा इमोशन प्रीडोमिनेंट था. आप पूरे हफ्ते में आपका मेजर फीलिंग कैसा था. Were you sad this whole week? Were you happy this whole week? Were you angry this whole week? So that helps us to understand what our emotion had been throughout the week. And then, if we see that our emotion has been being very sad for the past some weeks or like that, then we do need to check what is happening. Why are we sad for all throughout these weeks? We need to think what is happening. Should we consult a doctor? Should we consult a psychologist? Should we consult someone else? But we need to keep a track of ourselves. Then coming on to the self-care checklist, here we have domains of physical, spiritual, social, mental, and emotional. These are the five important domains which every day we play with, which every day we act up with. So keeping a check on all these domains is also important, because एक domain में कुछ गड़बड़ी होगा तो बाकी domains will get hampered. So it's just a game of balance that we keep on doing every day, balancing all these five domains equally, and that leads to our mental well-being. Then coming on to some stress relief activities, we can start with our eyes, like reading a book, watching a good film, or getting engaged into painting, photography. All these are visualization techniques. All these are some uh, visual pleasures which will give us a relief to all our stresses that we are going throughout the day. Therefore, we suggest children कि रात को सोने से पहले just read a good story book, because it will soothe the eyes. Coming on next to nose, so burning some aromatherapeutic oil or enjoying a scented candle, baking, or going for a walk where we have some good smell outside, or just having a cup of coffee with that brew smell. So again, it's giving a relief to our nose all throughout the day. throughout the day. We are working here, we are working there, hell lot of smells we get, but sitting at one time and engaging my each and every organ into a stress relieving activity actually helps that organ to get that time to re-energize self and get back to the daily course. Exercise, squeezing a stress ball, stroking a pet, or enjoying some repetitive movements, be it dance or anything, or a massage. These are actually a stress relieving works. Then coming on to the mouth, that is singing, laughing, talking, or chewing some good tasty maybe fruits or food or whatever it is. So actually it is giving a relief to our this zone. Then coming to the ears, yes, every day we hear hell lot of things. सुबह उठने से रात के सोने तक we hear hell lot of things. In between, if we can just give our ear a relaxation by enjoying some good music or maybe listening to some radio programs or TV programs. So all these are actually helping my the senses, these organs to get a relief and revitalize. Next, coming to the thought tracker. Yes, it's a very important part. It is often used by the psychologist for tracking down the thoughts of the people who are unable to understand what thought is leading to what sort of actions. So it can be done by ourselves also if we understand it a bit. So first we have the column of situation. So here we need to understand what situation is there. For example, here I yelled at my 3-year-old, woke up the baby who then wouldn't stop crying. So this is a situation probably this lady is having. And then coming on to the second column, that is what sort of feeling that is evoking in her. So uh, again, if I rate it, 90% it's anger, 90% it's sadness, and 70% it's a guilt that she is having because of this situation. What is the negative thought that is coming because of this situation? So I must be a very bad person not to be happy to have these healthy kids. This is the thought that she is feeling herself to be not worthy enough. And then comes the important two columns of how this thought is being supported, what are the facts evidences which is actually supporting this thought, and what are the facts and evidences which are actually not supporting this thought. So the first one, in case of this example, which is supporting the thought is, any decent mother loves her kids. A good person would feel happy about having a new baby. And the evidences against this thought is, I have always cared for my family and friends. I usually try to do good for others. People that know me never think I am a bad person. So now when you weigh these two set of thoughts, these two sets of rather evidences against your thoughts, you would be able to see that the evidences against your this present negative thought weighs more than the evidences which are supporting your thought. And this will lead to conscious effort to generate an alternative thought. So generating an alternative thought would be like, I am an okay person, what that is overwhelmed and having a bad reaction to motherhood right now. And this is just a phase, it shall pass. So this is an alternative thought which does come up when we just weigh these evidences. But we need to bring it up consciously. And then how are we feeling when this alternative thought has come up? So my anger has reduced, my sadness has reduced, my feeling of ashamed being ashamed has reduced. So this is how, see how the emotions is being aroused by the negative thoughts, and how bringing up the alternative thoughts consciously is helping us to reduce our emotion, the impact of our emotion actually. This can be done on regular basis so that we can keep check on our thoughts, especially the negative ones. Then getting to the mindfulness activity. So mindfulness activity can be anything where you are using all your senses and you are engrossing yourself into that activity. For example, bathing. So when you are bathing, you are just seeing the shower, the water that is falling from the shower, the walls, the tiles of the bathroom. You are able to feel the water in your hands and all over your body. You're able to smell the soap, the fragrance of the soap which you are using. You are able to taste the water that is falling from your shower. And also, you are able to hear the water droplets falling. Or if you are just playing the music inside the bathroom, that also can be accompanied. So basically, you are using all your senses and getting engrossed into, consciously getting engrossed into that activity and enjoying it and relishing it. You are experiencing every bit of that activity. And that is actually helping you to attend yourself, to re energize yourself. This is all about mindfulness. And it can be practiced anywhere with any activity that you feel like. Then coming on to the gratitude journal. So gratitude journal can be like morning gratitude, where before you begin your day you can list out the 10 things which you are grateful for, or what I'm learning from my challenges. You can be you can show your gratitude, or you can be grateful to these things, or the people to whom you would like to show gratitude in your everyday list. Or you can write just a thankful letter to self, or a thankful message to self, focusing on what best happened to you today. Out of all the negatives, amidst all the bad things, something good does happen every day. It's just our perception that the negatives overshadows the good part. And in the long race, it gets erased from our mind. So we have to again put our conscious effort to find it. And this is all about the mental well being, the mental hygiene, the mental health that we do need to maintain with, that we do need to focus upon. And on 10th October, we are having World Mental Health Day. So, why not just maybe start from today and check after some days that on this 10th October, that how these activities or how these points are actually helping to just focus on your mind, because your mind and body goes hand in hand. Thank you. Over to you, Nimesh.